Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name's Steve Barrett, and I'll be your host for the next hour. This session is all about giving you real insight into what it's like to start your career in the energy and utilities sector, directly from people who've done just that. We're joined by a fantastic panel from across the sector who'll be sharing their journeys on what they've learned along the way, and their advice to anyone considering applying for a graduate role in our industry. But before we meet the panelists, I just wanted to give you a brief insight into the scale of investment, both in infrastructure and people over the next 5 years and beyond, to deliver that net zero and to ensure our water infrastructure is fit for the future in an increasingly challenging climate. So I'm just going to show you a short video without the benefit of a safety net. So there you go. Bit of an insight into some of the challenges which are coming down the road for the energy and utility sector. I've just popped a quick agenda up on the screen there for give you an insight into what we're going to be covering today. Welcome and introductions. Then I'll get on to the panel session. Then we'll have a couple of closing remarks at the end. I'd encourage you to please use the chat function on the side of your screen. Before we get into that, I'm going to take you through a little bit of a recap of the video before we meet our panelists. So in terms of the growth within the energy and utilities industry, based on the numbers which we know are operating in the industry at the moment, it's about a 32% growth. So when you're looking at careers, choices as you go forward, there is significant investment both in terms of people and actual infrastructure across the UK. That includes things like new reservoirs, new energy systems, going from distribution networks into distribution systems, cleaning up the energy generation system, so looking at the potential of using hydrogen in the future. So there is significant investment, and that includes right the way across both energy and water and waste infrastructure. So there are many opportunities to be thinking about. Where are those jobs going to be coming from, though? So right the way across the piece, from leadership through technical, professional, right the way down to sector entry. So when you think about the roles which perhaps you'll be looking for going into those technical and professional type roles, there's over 150,000 jobs predicted over that next 5 years. So there is significant investment. And that's not just your perhaps engineering type roles. There are roles in things like HR, finance, investment, trading, right the way across those organizations to make sure we continue to have that energy and utilities infrastructure going forward. So lots going on in that space, and certainly lots for you to think about as a career going forward. So with that in mind, what I'd like to do next is to introduce our panelists to the session. So I'm going to stop my slides and I'm going to introduce each of the panelists on stage. So first of all, we've got Abby. Abby is a graduate project manager from AgilityEco, part of M Group. We've also got Barvik. I have hopefully got that right. Gohill from National Grid. We've also got Aaron from let me just pop down my screens, and Robert Lee. So as part of our graduate screen, let me just stop my slide presentation. There you go. And we're all up on screen. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Hopefully, we're going to have lots of questions coming in on the right-hand side of the screen, but let's get into some questions. So first of all, can I ask you, each of you, to come off mute, introduce yourselves, and give us a little bit of an insight into your role, what you studied, and what attracted you to a career in the energy and utilities industry. So, Robert, shall I come to you first, since you're talking?
Yeah, that's completely fine. Hello, everyone. I'm Robert Lee. I work for SGN as a graduate engineer. So SGN is a gas transporter. We get gas from what is effectively the motorways of the gas network and transport it to people's homes. So we operate in both Scotland and the south of England, feeding about 6 million customers, just under. And I've been there for a year, doing various different rotations in the engineering departments. So I've been in our energy futures department, so the hydrogen world, but also gas in terms of asset management and being on the ground and getting projects completed. So real breadth and depth of the gas industry. I've really enjoyed myself, and as a graduate, junior member, and you don't really know what you don't know, and I've found that the rotations have really helped develop my knowledge of the gas industry as a whole.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Robert. So coming out from a gas networks, some really interesting, exciting things going on in the gas networks. I know certainly for future, looking at potential optional gases as well around hydrogen and the like. So really quite an exciting time from that perspective. Absolutely. Thanks very much for that. Abby, shall I come to you next?
Yeah, so I work at M Group, which is an essential infrastructure and energy network services, which they deliver across water, transport, and like telecommunication sectors. So it covers like a wide range of sectors across the UK and Ireland. They kind of help maintain and upgrade and decarbonize critical infrastructure. So I'm in the energy division. I've only been here for about 2 months, and I'm currently in my first placement at AgilityEco, which is a energy efficiency and retrofit business, which is actually something that I really wanted to go into because I did my dissertation in my master's on retrofitting and energy efficiency and how we can decarbonize the grid. So it's been really great to go into and see how you do that in the real world and how it's applied, and just the project planning to actually be able to input this. It's currently, we work within people's homes. So that's how we're applying it. I definitely didn't always think I'd go into energy. I actually thought I wanted to be an architect, but my interest in geography kind of pushed me towards sustainability and infrastructure. And I think this is kind of a way to blend my knowledge in geography and what I went through in my university degree, and also my infrastructure interests. So it's kind of how it's been paired together, and I'm really enjoying it so far, but I am only 2 months in, so.
Fantastic. Look, and I think that's a really interesting perspective to look at here, and certainly across M Group, I know that you're engaged in many different sectors, in fact, and supporting those in achieving their aims. And I think it's important to think about that for graduates looking at roles in the industry, that it's not just the asset owners, just the big national grids, although I'm really looking forward to hearing from national grids in a second, but it is those supply chain organizations as well, which are absolutely critical to delivering those missions. So Bhavik, shall I come to you next?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, my name's Bhavik. I actually studied economics at the University of Birmingham, and then I actually started my early career at PwC, and I worked there for 3 years, and then I had a bit of a pivot in my early career, and last year I joined National Grid on their commercial graduate pathway, which is 18 months long. I'm currently just over a year in at the moment. I'm on my third placement, so we do 3 overall in our grad scheme. My first one was in the contracts and commercial team. My second was in group strategy, and my third, and my current placement is in corporate development and M&A. A bit about National Grid. Essentially, we connect the dots and we bring power into homes. National Grid doesn't generate any energy. We just, like I said, we just connect the dots. It's growing a lot. We had the biggest cohort for graduates last year, 150 graduates. So far it's going really well and enjoying it.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Bhavik. And you're absolutely right. Joining the dots, transmission networks, very exciting stuff. There's huge amount going on in grid upgrades, and you may have heard, for those of you in the audience, around things like high voltage connections coming in from interconnectors and some of the power distribution or transmission from certainly in Scotland coming down to England and interconnectors. I'm in East Anglia myself, and I know there's a big interconnector coming into East Anglia and coming down through and down to the south. So there's lots of going on in that part of the networks, and that then linking in with other things, I guess, which Abby, which you're talking about there in people's homes, and looking at micro generation feeding into distribution systems, feeding into transmission networks, which are much bigger again. So really exciting time. So thanks so much for that, Bhavik, and good to hear from you. Aaron, how about you from your perspective?
Yeah, so hi everyone. So I'm Aaron. So I'm also currently a graduate development engineer at National Grid. So I've been at the company, same as Bhavik, just over a year now, as part of an 18-month grad program. And it's structured around, like Bhavik said, 3 6-month placements. Before joining National Grid, I also went to the University of Birmingham. So I graduated last year in July 2024.
I also went to the University of Birmingham. Sorry, Aaron, to interrupt, but
really?
that's 3 of us. Cool.
What's the chances of that?
I know.
There you go. But yeah, I explored lots of grad opportunities, came across National Grid, really interested in the role that it plays in the energy transition. Also big emphasis on innovation at the moment as well, like you said, with the great grid upgrade. But yeah, I started off my first placement at a place called Grain LNG, which is a liquefied natural gas terminal, and that's located in the southeast of England. It's actually the largest LNG terminal in Europe as well. So I was on the commercial team over there, and we were helping like onboard a new supplier. I was also helping with some sort of like business development stuff as well. And obviously there was a big focus as well on the future of gas infrastructure in the UK, especially in the energy transition at the moment as well. And then for my next placement, I moved into the interconnector side of the business. So yeah, for anyone who's unfamiliar about interconnectors, they're huge subsea cables that link the UK's electricity grid to other European countries. And National Grid actually own the largest portfolio in the UK. So we've got a current operational fleet of 7 interconnectors at the moment, and we're looking to expand that. So I was on the commercial side there. I was looking at new interconnector projects, something called offshore hybrid assets as well. So these are pretty much interconnectors, but they also connect offshore wind directly to the cable via platforms at sea. And they allow clean energy to flow sort of flexibly between 2 different countries based on supply and demand. But yeah, I enjoyed that placement a lot. I decided I wanted to stay in the interconnector space for my final rotation, which is where I am now. And I'm working directly with the managing director of interconnectors and also the executive leadership team, and sort of helping them deliver their strategic vision for interconnectors. But yeah, it's been really good insight into sort of like the leadership, decision making at the sort of really high level as well. But yeah, then outside of work, I've recently also been elected as an ambassador to the Energy Institute's Young Professional Network. So it's sort of huge network, loads of different companies in the energy industry. So generators, transmission operators, banks, energy consultancies, absolutely loads. But its aim is sort of to connect young professionals in the industry to each other through stuff like networking panels, networking events, stuff like that. But yeah, that's a bit about me.
Brilliant. Thanks, Aaron. And thanks, everyone. Good to hear your backgrounds and how you found your way into the sector. So I've got a few questions here, which I'm going to pose to you. Aaron, I will say I feel like I kind of wrote roughshod over your interconnector part there, so I do apologise for that. But you've got a bit more information, certainly from first-hand experience than I have. But good to hear that. So look, just a quick reminder to everyone: there's to use the chat function on the side. So pop your questions in there as we're going through this. I'll pick through those. As well as the questions which I've got already prepared. But look, first of all, then, how did you decide which degree to study? And did you have a clear career path in mind, or did it evolve as you went along? Was it about energy, or what was your thinking? And let's start right at the top again. Robert, shall I come to you first?
Yeah. To be honest, I was a full into it type person. I liked maths and chemistry at school, so I kind of had an idea that I'd end up in the chemical engineering world. That was, I'm sure people listening have done their own research, but you put your A levels in and it says what degree suits you, and I did some further research on that. And to be honest, yeah, fell into it, really enjoyed it. I did it for 5 years, so I must have enjoyed it, doing masters and a year in industry. Yeah, but I can't say I grew up expecting to be a chemical engineer or something. I mean, there are so many jobs that you don't know exist until you start doing your own research. I mean, at home, well, I work for the gas industry, so my head's instantly going to boilers and whatnot. When you flick that on, all of us are very fortunate that we flick it on and we don't think of the infrastructure behind that. But obviously there's thousands, if not tens of thousands of people that work on us having access to that every day. Whether you flick on a light switch, I'm sure National Grid, that's your go-to cliche. Flicking on the light switch, so many things and so many people that all work on getting that to work as efficiently as it does in the UK.
Yeah, that's interesting insight, isn't it? And I think that's common right the way across utilities, certainly energy infrastructure, and there is a shed load of infrastructure which sits behind that. And actually, there's a lot more people that each element of that value chain, I suppose, are a component of that. So yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Thanks, Robert. And Abby, what's your perspective?
So, as I said, I enjoyed geography in school, so I wanted to do something a little bit different. I liked how we can affect real world events with the things that we do. So I thought I'd go in the geography route, but I did environmental science, and I enjoyed it so much that I went on to do an environmental engineering master's. I wanted to do more learning. And it kind of just really showed me, yeah, as you said, there's just so many more things that are just behind the scenes on how we get energy, how the gas networks are connected, how renewable energies work. I did some bits on water, and that was really interesting as well. There's just so much infrastructure behind what we use daily, and we kind of do take it for granted. So I just think it's really interesting, and I think the energy world is just constantly evolving, and I think it will be great to be a part of that in the future. So I'm definitely excited to see where, like, now that my path has taken me here, where it's going to go in the future. So I'm excited.
That is exciting, isn't it? And I think that I think people are becoming more increasingly aware, and tell me if I'm wrong here, about the environmental element of this as well. So, that whole sustainability piece, which is really super important, because it's not just about creating power at any cost, is it? It's not just about having clean water at any cost. It's about making sure we can manage that sustainably going forward. So yeah, it's really interesting. But that's great. Thanks so much, Abby, from your perspective. Bhavik, what's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I chose to study economics. I chose it because I was curious in things like markets and policy, and it also felt very broad. It gave me the option later down the line, because I didn't exactly know where I wanted to put my career when I was at that age. Not only that, I think studying economics kind of, it was within my academic fit. I really enjoyed things like maths and writing essays, so it offered a good mix of both for me. And then in terms of a career plan, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be analytical, also on the commercial side as well. Like I said previously, I kind of started my career within finance, and then had that pivot later on down the line once I gained a bit more experience. And for me personally, I changed and I had that pivot because I realized that my career is very long, and I wanted to do something that's impactful and meaningful. And I think being within the energy and utilities sector, you are at the heart of touching everyone, essentially, because what you do impacts everything that we do. And then, yeah, over time, I just realized that, yeah, National Grid is a place for me, and I applied and was fortunate enough to get in.
Fantastic, and pretty stiff competition to get into National Grid. It's absolutely up there with the top employers, and I think but I mean that those critical infrastructure roles right the way across industry, I think it's common across the infrastructure, isn't it? That people are looking for those, to coin your words, I think meaningful career and really feeling like you're contributing. And certainly, Abby, Robert, I've heard that from what you said as well. And I think it's really important that we consider that going forward. And I think many people in the audience here will be thinking the same thing. So, Aaron, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, so I studied business management at university, and yeah, to be honest, I didn't really have a sort of clear-cut career path for me from the start. So I remember I struggled quite a bit choosing my A-level subjects, for example, after GCSEs. So I knew that like I was good at mathematical subjects, but then I also really enjoyed stuff like reading and writing. So in the end, I ended up choosing quite a mixed bag. I chose physics, maths, biology, and then I also did an extended project qualification, which I wrote on the UK legal system. So you can tell from that it was quite a mix. I didn't really have a specific career in mind. I just sort of followed what I was sort of good at and what I enjoyed. But it definitely made like choosing my university course a bit more challenging. So I did explore quite a lot of options. I looked at stuff like engineering, microbiology, physics, but there was sort of like one sort of theme that I'd say that always interested me, and that was sustainability. So I've always been sort of interested in that from a younger age, and I definitely wanted to study a course or somewhere where that sort of satisfies that. But yeah, I ended up studying business, and I guess what sort of drew me in was the strong emphasis in the course. I had a big emphasis on ESG, responsible business, and also sustainability. And I also liked that I was able to sort of pick what I could do my dissertation topic on in my final year. So yeah, my dissertation, I ended up writing it on creating ESG scores for the airline companies, and sort of like critiquing the industry sustainability practices, looking at the future of aviation, looking at sustainable aviation fuels, looking at how ESG might sort of impact the long-term viability of that sector. But yeah, I guess that sort of made me realize that I wanted to work within sustainability. And then during my final year, I applied to lots of grad roles, some in consultancy, but also some in industry at the same time. I got to a few assessment centres, like JLR, who are obviously in charge of electrifying their electric vehicles at the moment, then Newton Europe as well, which is a consultancy firm, but also touches on energy consulting, and then obviously National Grid as well, where I ultimately chose that I wanted to continue. But yeah, and then also that with having like a business background as well, I sort of gravitated towards more like commercial graduate roles, but I was also always looking for that sort of sustainability angle at the same time.
Yeah, well, that is interesting, isn't it? And talk about aviation and what's going on there. Maybe you need to have a conversation with Robert offline, but the whole chemical side of this and what we use for transportation in the future, things like the fuels, hydrogen, for instance, being considered as as potential fuels. So lots going on in that space. But interesting to see how you're talking about the commercial elements and the business studies where you started off, and actually the transferability of those business skills as well into different roles. So yeah, that's really interesting, as well as the sustainability side of things. It's a strong thread which is certainly coming through from all of you at the moment. So that's great to see. So just moving on from that, building on that then. So thinking about the opportunities that we've talked about. I mean, I mentioned there's 312,000 new people required. I think the number on in the graduate space, I think we looked at 211,000 potential new professionals coming into industry. But I mean, you wouldn't have been aware of those before you came into industry. So, I mean, what first made you aware of those opportunities available in the energy and utility sector? I mean, was it a placement, an event, or something that sparked your interest? Shall I start at the top again, Robert? Shall I come to you first?
Yeah, I'd say that I generally found it through A, personal research, B, probably some careers fairs as well. I mean, our uni was quite good at creating those industrial links, and we had I can remember it now. There's careers fairs going on, excuse me, in the Great Hall and whatnot, and I remember walking around and suddenly getting much more intrigued in that sort of sustainability world, as it appears that everyone here has that desire to help with net zero. But yeah, personal research, careers fairs, but also for me, older students. There was a good link between myself and those older students, so they'd worked in certain industries, and it's much easier to talk to a fellow student than it is a big scary person that's a managing director or something. I mean, once you get that relationship, it's so much easier. But to begin with, having those student voices saying, yeah, this is really interesting, that's really interesting. So I would say number one is older students, because it gets fed back to us.
Yeah, someone that's like-minded, someone that's probably
absolutely
operating in the same space. I think that's really important. And someone mentioned STEM ambassadors earlier. I think that's a great. I was a STEM ambassador for many years, and I think the relevance and how you can connect with those people, I think, are is really interesting as well. Abby, how about you?
So I would say I became aware through a lot of seminars and research through uni. Especially during my master's course, after it was more like honed in on which environmental studies, because there were a couple of master's courses that you could have taken. So I'd say just attending the seminars put through the university, but also attending the ones that weren't energy related, kind of made me realize that I was more interested in the energy side of the industry. And I just found energy the most interesting, and there's loads of opportunities for innovation and sustainability within that. I was particularly drawn to how the energy sector is transforming through decarbonisation, as I did my dissertation kind of on that. So I just think doing my dissertation, as well as just seeing different companies come in and speak about what they did, it kind of really cemented where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. It definitely wasn't clear cut from the start, but I think it kind of became more clear when you see actual people in industry come in and talk to you about what they do.
Yeah, making it more relevant. Yeah, that's a good shout, and I think that's a great way of doing things as well. Okay, and Bhavik, I was just going to come on to the next question, but Bhavik, let's run through this one, and then we'll probably split it up slightly given the time. Sure. But go for it, Bhavik.
Yeah, no. So I think for me, it started with curiosity, just around energy, just around utilities, and then I began doing my own research, looking into things like energy transition, net zero goals, and critical infrastructure. And then once I'd done my own research, I began just listening to podcasts and really like trying to soak up as much information as I could, because I found it super interesting. And then once I had a little bit of background knowledge, then I started reaching out to people on LinkedIn and really trying to get a perspective of how it is within this industry, because it's all well and good doing as much research as you can, but talking to people, really seeing what they do in their day-to-day, I think that's a really good place to get a good understanding of how things work. And then also I realized how important the sector is. And it's always on the news. It's always a big factor for things like budgets and the government. So I realized that's a good place to be, and it's very important. And of course, it's growing as well.
Thanks, Bhavik. And I good shout. Absolutely, it's on the news often, not often on the news for the right reasons, but I think there are so many things going on in industry that are improving how the networks operate, and the reason why we need to be investing in this infrastructure and making sure we have the right people coming through for those roles. And I think it's certainly incumbent upon us to make sure that people are aware of those careers and the opportunities that are out there for them. So yes, it's a great shout. And Aaron, from you.
Yeah, to be honest, it's probably a bit of a combination of things, really. But I'd say for me personally, it was during my final year at university, and it was actually like when I was applying to grad jobs. So when I was applying to grad jobs, it made me research all the companies, and energy kept on standing out to me. It seemed like it really aligned with my personal interest, and obviously, like I mentioned as well, during my actual course, the stuff that I was studying during my dissertation project. It just made me realize how critical the energy sector is, especially towards, shaping the net zero future. But yeah, I don't think it was a specific single event or a placement. It was more gradual for me, and it was mainly through like my academics and yeah, searching for jobs.
Well, that's really interesting, isn't it? And I'm obviously relevant to yourself on the energy side, and I think that just for anyone that's on the call thinking about a career on the water side as well, there's and this is interesting, Robert. I suppose from a gas perspective, because there are many skills which are required on the water sector side as well, and actually the skills are quite similar. As pipe fitting and the likes on the as well as the network design, the infrastructure design, the kind of that whole system approach is quite similar. So none of these sectors are operating in isolation, and actually, in fact, you can argue that there is a wider hyper competitive environment which we're operating in, trying to attract that talent in for the future. And I think some of the elements around things like smart metering, things like operating systems remotely using electronic control boards, and things operating in control centers. You'll be aware of NESO, the National Energy System Operator, so that work closely, obviously, with National Grid, recently separated out, and actually their role in making sure they're balancing the grid. Well, that actually has an interconnection with gas, power, power generation, power transmission. So operating that entire system is a complex environment. So it's a multifaceted approach, and 104 billion pounds being invested in that water infrastructure, as well as the potential 40 billion a year being invested in the energy infrastructure to achieve this transition to net zero by 2030. It's significant. So there is a bit of a burning platform, but also I think interesting to think about that wider context about it's going to take time to get people there. So therefore, having a good, strong stream pipeline of talent coming in via graduates as well as apprenticeship routes is going to be really important as we go forward. Really great perspectives from everyone. So thanks very much for those. So I'm just going to move on to the next question then. So in terms of the since you've joined, I mean, what's been the biggest positive? I've heard so much about sustainability and kind of what attracted you into industry, but what was the biggest things? And I'll come to two of you for this one. So Abby, shall I come to you first? What's been the biggest thing that's been your the thing that's excited you since joining the career, which perhaps you weren't expecting?
I'm trying to think. So because I've only just joined, it is like everything that I'm working on is exciting. It's so good to work in an area where it's something I did my dissertation on. And M Group actually acquired the company AgilityEco in the January that I was applying. So it was kind of a bit of divine intervention going on there. So I can't say that I've done anything. I can't say that I've worked on projects that have become realised yet, and it's been really exciting. But it's been really exciting meeting everyone and meeting the grads and meeting similar-minded people. And I think that's really what's made me think this was a really good decision, because everyone here has been really great. Like, everyone's sharing their knowledge, and it's great to speak to people that are interested in the same things as you, that want to help people the way that you do, are interested in the same like net zero goals. And it's just great to speak to people on the daily that you just kind of relate to, and it just kind of makes your passion for the industry grow, because you just get to speak about different things. Everyone knows different areas of the business, and it's just great to just hear from loads of new people. So that's what I found most exciting so far. I'm hoping that I'll be part of new projects that are going to be exciting, and there'll be more, and I'll be able to get more involved in them as I carry on in my graduate scheme.
Fantastic. And I wouldn't underestimate the people side there. You mentioned, the people that you met, the graduates, and I guess the people that you work with as well. And I'd known M Group for many years, and and some of the work they've been involved in has been far reaching beyond, you know, kind of where you'd traditionally anticipate. But I think that's a really important point. I think when you come into industry, the people that you're going to be working with, like-minded, similar kind of direction of travel. So yeah, I think that's a really important point. And Bhavik, can I come to you? Anything from your perspective?
Yeah, sure. So I've been at National Grid for a year now. I think one of the main things for me is the people. At National Grid, you join with 150 other grads, so instantly I've got a community. I've made some great friends, and I've built a strong network there. So that's one main thing I'd say, the people. The second is probably the on-site experiences. So just seeing these vast major infrastructure projects has been a real highlight, like seeing the scale, seeing the impact of our work, and actually seeing that tangible right in front of your eyes. I think that's really important. And then probably just thirdly, a big highlight for me was I had a chance to go to New York just earlier in the month. So it was eye-opening seeing how we operate as a global business in the US, and just seeing my US colleagues as well. Again, the people aspect is so important. But yeah.
Oh, of course, the US operation as well. Absolutely, yeah, that's very exciting, isn't it? And look, I think again that experience, then that kind of wider opportunity that perhaps you wouldn't experience in other sectors, I think is really important as well. So look, so I'm just going through the chat here, and I've got a question which kind of aligns with what we looked at before, and I think just to share with people that are on the call today about your experience going through that recruitment process and the things that you had to do, so your assessment centers and the likes and anything else that went. Is there anything you'd like to share with people that would really put them on the front foot as they come through that process, as perhaps they're approaching the end of their graduate scheme? Aaron, shall I come to you first on that one?
Yeah, sure. I think I've definitely got a decent amount of advice. Obviously, I've gone through the process quite recently. I think from the very start, I think the main thing is don't fall into that trap of, you know, applying to loads and loads of different roles without tailoring your application. So I think it is obviously quite tempting, you know, just to cast the net wide and just apply to loads and loads of different jobs. But I think you should definitely, like, you know, take the time to understand the company, what they're doing, look at their values, look at their mission, look at your own experiences as well, and look how they align with your own values. And then, yeah, I think the next stage is normally when it comes to like a video interview. And I think for that one, I'd say practice is probably the most important thing for that, because it's definitely quite unnatural to start off with, because you're speaking to someone there's no one else on the other side of the screen. So I think doing stuff, you know, like mock interviews, recording yourself, watching it back, getting like comfortable with that format, I feel like that helps. I definitely did that, and that helped me. And then, yeah, then you normally go to like an assessment center as well towards like the final stage of your application. And I'd say personally, my biggest piece of advice for that is just being yourself, obviously, but also trying to be the most confident version of yourself as well. So like obviously you've made it through like the initial stages of the application, so the company like obviously sees that potential in you. So I think it's a really good opportunity to sort of let your personality shine. And I think a good opportunity for that is especially during like a group exercise. So you normally have a group exercise in an assessment center. And I think a really important thing in that is to be like collaborative but not competitive at the same time. So doing stuff like, you know, inviting the quieter voices in the room to the conversation. I think that shows that you work really well in the team. And then on like an organizational side as well, doing stuff like being a timekeeper, being a note taker, I feel like that can go quite a long way as well. But yeah, and then you normally have an interview as well in an assessment center. On the same vein as organization, I think preparing questions to ask your interviewers, bringing a notebook with you, it shows that you're genuinely interested and engaged in the process. And I think a lot of people get quite nervous in interviews as well. I mean, I know that I did. So I think, you know, when answering your questions, saying just things like, can I have a couple of seconds before I answer the question? It doesn't actually look bad on you doing that, and it's better doing that than producing like an unstructured response. And one method that I actually used was the STAR method. And I know that a lot of companies look for it. I know that National Grid, for example, looks for it. And yeah, that is situation, task, action, result, and it's a really good way to sort of structure your answers. And you can also add another R at the end, which is like reflection, just to show what you've learned as well. And then, yeah, finally, also reaching out to grads on LinkedIn, like Bhavik said, I think that really helped me. So I actually had a few calls with some grads before my assessment centre, because obviously they've been through the process. They can give you really good insight into the application process, what it's like to work for the company. They might be able to give you some questions, that thought-provoking questions that you can bring to your interview, that sort of thing.
Brilliant. Thanks, Aaron. Really useful insight there. The STAR sort of things. Yeah, I've come across that in the past. Really good methods of thinking about a structured approach. But interesting to think as well about not casting your net too wide and being really focused on, Abby, I think you mentioned it as well, being closely aligned to your values, your own kind of thinking about what really you want out of a job, because I mean, ultimately, coming in as graduates into an organization, that organization is looking for their future leaders as well. You know, they're looking for people that will really be able to step up. So that whole thing about decision making, as well as including other people, being aware of the people aspect, as well as the output element to a project, I think is going to be really important as well. So yeah, that's great to hear. And Robert, from your perspective.
Yeah, I feel like Aaron said it. I feel like I'm going to echo exactly what he said. In the assessment centre, all you can do is your best. If a question comes up that you're not so familiar with, then I'd say that the number one thing you can be is honest. Your technical skills can be learnt, whether you're researching it yourself, speaking to senior members of the team, but your integrity and honesty, that really shines through. What Aaron said about video interviews is very, very true. I'm sure all of us absolutely despised it, but you just have to get through it and practice, as Aaron said. But it's that consistency. Nobody wants to be doing thousands, or, well, obviously no one's doing thousands, but hundreds of applications. It's those. I always found when you're applying, you can work out quite quickly whether you actually enjoy the sound of this job. If it's hard to write a cover letter, you're trying to persuade yourself that you want to do this in a place that you don't really want to be living, for example. That really does shine. Whether I could have written the cover letter, whether my experience was more pertinent, it made a huge, huge difference for sure. And that, as the others have said, led me to the energy side of everything.
Brilliant. Thanks, Robert. It sounds like you've been applying for jobs for about 20, 30 years there. What wise words from someone that's just setting out in his career.
I was fortunate in that respect. I didn't mean to make it sound like that, but yeah.
No, I think it's good feedback. I think it's really interesting, because you're right. I mean, if you're trying to shoehorn a CV or your interests into a job which doesn't really fit, then you probably need to be looking at something else which does align with your career aspirations. And so, yeah, I think that's great advice. So, and hopefully people found that useful as well. So, yeah, no, good feedback. So look, that's great. And in terms of the sector and the way that it's evolving and our direction of travel, there's an awful lot of work going on at the moment about making sure that diversity and being inclusive and future focused is absolutely front and center. And as we look at creating that more diverse and inclusive workforce, and I'm just interested to hear your perspective on what you've seen since joining industry, because sometimes from the outside, people can have this perception, well, it's just overalls and it's just, doing dirty jobs in workshops, and there's nothing else really going on in the energy and utilities industry. So what can we do to dispel those myths and tell all those bright future talents that are looking to come into the energy and utilities industry what we're doing to improve upon that? And let me come around the room again. So who shall I start with? Bhavik, shall I come to you first?
Yeah, sure. So just on that diversity point, I think I've definitely seen it within the graduate space. I believe like just last week we were at a careers fair, and the early careers team were telling me that the cohort that I joined, me and Aaron joined with, were the most diverse ever on National Grid. I think around 70% came from an ethnic minority background. So straight away, that diversity point, I hope they're really changing that and the feel around it. I think it genuinely feels inclusive from day one, not just in numbers, but also how people are supported and heard. All the time in the office, we're celebrating. Just last week, we were celebrating Diwali in the office. So it's a very inclusive place to be. Not only that, I think the open conversations that they have, they're really big on it. And I think at National Grid as well, in terms of diversity and the graduates they bring on, they don't really care about what you've studied in the past. So whether you studied economics or a science or maths or whatever it is, National Grid, I can speak for them. They believe that they can bring everyone up using their training and their facilities and things like that. So it's really good to join with people who have a bunch of different experiences and come from a lot of varied backgrounds. So definitely at the graduate level, I can say that there's probably still a lot of work to do as you go up the ranks, but that's like that probably in every industry.
Yeah. Look, I think you're absolutely right, and I think the narrative is changing, and certainly through some of the research which we've done as Energy and Utility Skills, we've certainly seen some progress in that area as well. But definitely, as you say, more work to do. But I think it's that feeling of inclusivity, I think, is the point as well, isn't it? And as long as people are supporting that transition and that direction of travel, then I think we're on the right track. What we don't want is people being told that it's a very diverse and inclusive an environment, and then it's not, or we're not making moves towards making it more diverse and inclusive. And ultimately, we want to become that sector that's truly representative of the people it serves. So making sure that it represents the UK population. Obviously, that varies right the way across the UK. So yeah, that's a great shout. Thanks very much. And Abby, I know you've only been in the industry for a very short amount of time, but any thoughts from your perspective? What have you seen? And does it feel inclusive? Does it feel diverse?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a clear focus on inclusion, and at M Group they have an enable framework that got shown to us on the induction days, and they were really eager to get us all involved. And if there was any clubs that they wanted to make, they were clubs for loads of different things that people could get involved in. I'm lucky to be in an office with loads of women. It's great to see that there's loads of women in energy. It's encouraging to see initiatives with equality, and I've personally experienced the culture where everyone's input is valued, especially since it's not just the higher ups that get to speak to the CEO. They've recently said that the graduates are going to submit questions that we can ask and sit down with Andrew, our CEO, so we can get his perspective and we can tell him our ideas. So it's not just graduates are at the bottom and they don't get to speak to anyone. It's also that the higher ups get involved with those that are new in the business as well. So that's great to see. Excellent.
Good stuff. Thanks, Abby. And Robert, from your perspective, from the gas side, what are you seeing?
Yeah, there is definitely movement in the right direction. I do think there's a way to go in the gas world. Quite a few of our senior managers are male, but there is definitely a tendency to employ women who are obviously very capable. I mean, even on the grad side, I know a fellow grad. She's been buoyed by some of the female representatives in the gas world because it is a small amount of the engineers. You mentioned putting your hard hat on and your overalls on. I think that women are more willing to get involved, and as they should, and it's all moving in the right direction. But there is still momentum to come, shall we say?
Absolutely brilliant. Thanks, Robert. So look, I'm going to move on to some of the questions which come on through the Q&A in a second. But before I do that, I'm just really intrigued. New into energy and utilities. a bright career ahead of you. What does the next 5 to 10 years hold for you? Where do you see yourselves in 10 years' time? Maybe too ethereal there, Aaron. I'm not sure. What's your thoughts? Where do you see yourself in 5, 10 years' time?
Yeah, so I definitely think that I see myself staying within the energy sector. So I've really enjoyed it so far. I think it's a really interesting sector to be involved in. At the moment, it's constantly evolving. I found it quite intellectually stimulating as well. So I feel like it satisfies that. In terms of what company, I mean, so far I haven't had too much experience, but I've been working at National Grid on their graduate scheme, and I feel like they put all the right things in place for me to definitely grow here. So, for example, they just paid for a course for me to do on regulation in electricity markets in Europe. So things like that, they're always willing to give you that sort of thing. And I know a lot of people, for example, who've been at National Grid for a long time, they pay for them to do a master's qualifications, MBAs, get charterships, that sort of thing. But yeah, personally, I do want to get maybe some more operational experience and some more commercial experience. So coming from a non-technical background, looking what sort of opportunities there are within the technical space, see if I can develop that. Then also to sort of strengthen my commercial skill set as well, try and see if there's any, we work quite closely with the financial side of National Grid as well. So seeing if I can do any sort of qualifications or certifications related to that. But yeah, long term, I'd want to stay within the energy sector and hopefully move to a leadership role.
Brilliant. Thanks, Aaron. I'm going to link that into a question which I've got here to bring on to you, Bhavik. So there's a question. Does National Grid retain their graduates? Are there job opportunities after their graduate programs? Which I think Aaron's probably alluded to. There probably are. But I mean, does National Grid retain their graduates? Is there a good retention there? And why do you think that is, if they do? Or isn't it, they don't?
No, there definitely is. So the graduate program's 18 months. And then once you roll off that graduate program, you're guaranteed a job within Grid. And then you can also pick and choose where you want to go depending on them 3 rotations. Of course, it depends on things like business demand and business needs, but you can definitely sway where you want to go. But I believe the average graduate stays a very long time. There are people at Grid who have stayed 10, 20, even 30 years. Our current CEO, John Pettigrew, who's going to retire next month, he actually joined as a graduate, which is really inspiring and nice to see that someone's gone through that transition. I think Grid's a great place to be, to have that long-term career. Like Aaron said, the development opportunities to contribute to energy transition in a meaningful way. I think it's a great place.
Fantastic. And look, let me put that out to everyone else as well. I think, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years, Abby? And, what do you think your M Group is doing to retain graduates?
I think M Group, there's just so many places you can grow. They have fingers in many pies, if you would say that. I just think, and they're keen for, if you are interested in any of the other sectors, they'll definitely give you a look and see if you want to fit in there. And I just think there's so many places you can go. They're always acquiring new tenders and always getting new projects. And I just think it's definitely somewhere that would always keep you on your toes. There'd always be something new that they would be involved in. And I think I definitely, from what I've experienced so far, I definitely want to stay. I want to see where things move on to. National Grid, also a very exciting place to be. I'm really interested in how the infrastructure is going to be put in when we electrify the grid. So whether M Group has anything to that. I know they've worked with National Grid in the past, so that's something I'm interested in to see in the future. So I definitely want to stay in energy to see how that pans out as we try and make everything sustainable and reach our net zero goals. So in the future, I'm currently as a graduate project manager, so obviously I'd like to get into lead projects. They've already put me through a PFQ qualification, and I'm only 2 months in, so I think there's definitely loads of room to grow. So I just hope that I do well, and I actually have a successful career. So I'm hoping that as well.
Fantastic. And look, I mean, it sounds like there's heaps of opportunities there. And what's good for me is there is a sense, and certainly there is a requirement within, it's heavily regulated industry. It's mission critical. We have to make sure that we're investing in people to ensure they continue to develop and then support that future role progression. But also, what does the infrastructure look like of the future? We haven't mentioned AI specifically or technology so far, but look, that's coming down the track pretty quickly, and the implications of things like cyber security. And the requirements for maintaining that secure grid and infrastructure, both in the water side as well. Think about contamination of water sources and the likes, with gas as well. Thinking about how we make sure that those grids are secure is going to be really important as we go forward. So I think there are other elements which we need to consider. So Robert, from your perspective, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? And what are SGN doing to support graduates and keep hold of them, I suppose?
We have a very clear training program during our grad scheme. So we have various gas trainings, whether that be on the transmission side, the distribution side, or even within houses. Similar to National Grid, some of our senior directors and people that report to the CEO have been in the gas world since they were grads coming out of uni as well. I absolutely can see myself in the energy industry. SGN is a place where I actually a couple of weeks ago met someone that had been here for 50 years. So there are some for lifers, don't get me wrong. Society is leaning away from that now, but there is absolutely a reason that people stay for so long. Everyone seems to have been there for less than 2 years or greater than 15 is what I've found. And there's absolutely a reason for us junior members. I can definitely see a path. I mean, the way our grad scheme is done is we're classified as aspiring managers, which is actually incredibly reassuring.
Absolutely. Look, they're great responses. Thank you very much for those. There are a couple of questions in the chat, and some of them refer to people coming in from overseas, so looking for roles within organisations. I don't expect any of the graduates on the call today to be able to answer those, but look, please do contact those organisations directly. There are sponsorship schemes which do operate within the energy and utilities industry as part of the organisations that we work with. Bear in mind, we're working across 70 or so member organisations, so there's plenty of information in there. But look, I'm just going to wrap up, but before I do so, I'm just going to ask, I'm going to go around the panelists and ask them just for one piece of advice you would give someone thinking about a career in the energy or utilities industry. What advice would they give to that maybe someone that previous to them joining the career? So either a younger version of themselves or someone that is looking to come into the industry. Robert, I'll come to you first. What's your thoughts?
I think I touched on it a bit earlier, but I would definitely say that the technical skills, having come from a technical background, I feel that I would enter the interview room expecting to answer all their questions.
Okay.
But that's not strictly true. It's much more about who you are as a person. Are you willing to get engaged? Are you eager to learn? Are you volunteering? Are you going out of your comfort zone? All of those things, I think, truly make a great grad rather than the technical side.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Abby?
I think getting placements, internships, it really helps you develop as a person, but also shows any interviewer that you're going out of your way, you're passionate to get into work, and you really want to start your learning and grow in your own time. I think also don't go in, even if you do know everything, you need to show that you're willing to grow because there's no point in being a graduate if you already think you know the entire industry. They're looking for somebody that they can mold into who they want you to be for the company. So I think definitely showing that you still have room to grow and that you're willing to learn is also a key personality trait.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Barvik?
I think mine's quite similar to Robert, where it says be yourself. So I believe like they're not just hiring skills, they're hiring people at the end of the day. And these people, they want them to fit in their culture and grow with their company. So really be yourself, show your personality when you get to that assessment center stage. And yeah, that you don't want to work with, or you don't want to work at a company where things don't quite align. So be yourself, and it's up to you to make that choice if the fit's right.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And Aaron, finally.
Yeah, I think my biggest piece of advice is probably just understanding what truly motivates you. So whether it's something technical like electrical engineering, or something like for me, which was quite broader, which was sustainability and working in the energy transition, I think that sort of clarity helps you decide and helps guide what decisions you make and what applications you decide to do. And I also think that, for example, the energy and utility sector is really diverse. So there's not just roles in engineering, there's roles in commercial, strategy, policy, innovation, operations, HR. There's so many different ones. So I think just taking the time to explore what areas excite you most. I think also what helped me was reading up on some of the challenges maybe that the sector's facing, looking at stuff like decarbonisation, grid modernisation, and yeah, if any of those sort of topics sort of spark your interest, I think that's a really good sign.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And I don't know about anyone else, but I'm certainly looking for going off and starting a career in energy and utilities as soon as I possibly can. So look, thank you so much to everyone for your input there. I could reel through all the things which you've told me today, but really, really interesting. I just wanted to thank you for your advice, your guidance, and hopefully the people in the audience have taken away a little bit of information that will help them on their career journey. Can I ask if you do wish to look at some of the roles which are available, just to click on or follow the link, the QR code which we've got there. There are so many jobs out there, and it's not just now. It's right the way up until that 2030 and beyond. So thinking about a career in the energy and utilities industry is definitely a sensible option. The investment which is coming in over the next 5 years is unprecedented. It's beyond what's ever been committed previously. So please, I hope you've enjoyed today. I hope you've taken away something that was meaningful and helpful. And as I say, take a look at the jobs which are available and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much to our panelists, and thank you to everyone for joining us.